Our deuces wild. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our aim. That's our goal. That's our mission. In our previous episode, of course, we posted preseason number one teams according to the AP poll from 1950 until last season to see where they landed in the final poll and how the pollsters did. Check out that video. Now we're looking at number two because theoretically, these are the selections for the national championship game loser, the runner-up in college football. And again, from 1950 to 2021, we will check it out. All right. Keep in mind that the number one team in the preseason poll went on to win the national championship or be voted number one in the AP poll 10 times. How about the number two team in the nation? 12 times. The number two team in the nation actually finished number one 2 more times than the number one team. Also, for the number two team in the nation, got to check how many times they actually finished in that second spot in the final AP poll, and that was 8 times. The numbers actually are almost identical between the numbers 1 and 2 teams in the nation in the preseason poll in regards to where they finish ranked. Out of 71 seasons, the number two team in the preseason poll finished in the top 5 39 times, in the top 10 57 of 71 times. Pretty good percentage by the pollsters. They finished ranked 66 times, which was 1 more than the number one preseason teams, and finished unranked 5 times, which was, of course, 1 less than the number one preseason team. So, not since 1994 has a team that started number 2 in the country finished unranked. Let's look at the seasons. 1950, not necessarily a team that we would consider to be a contender to be number 2 in the country. Vying for a national championship would be Army, which did finish, in fact, one of those 8 teams that finished number 2 in the country at the final poll for 1950. Tennessee, Maryland, Michigan State, and others. And you see basically the number 2 team in the country throughout the 50s and 60s landed somewhere in the top 10 almost all the time, except for Oklahoma in 1959 at number 15, and that unranked Oklahoma team in 1964 that started off the season, of course, number 2 in the country. Another unranked finish for a number 2 team preseason was Texas in 1965. The Horns did not rank. We've got a national championship from Johnny Rogers in Nebraska in 1971 from a preseason number 2 team. And then the next ones came in the late 70s with Alabama, the 1979 Crimson Tide finishing at number 1 after a preseason number 2 finish to USC's number 1. Oklahoma and Marcus Dupree in 1983 finished unranked after a preseason number 2 ranking. And then 2 years later, Bo Jackson and Auburn in 1985 unranked after losing the Cotton Bowl, and they were the preseason number 2 team in the country. The next national championship team, after we see a number of teams throughout the 90s that ranked fairly high, but not quite up to that number 2 standing, other than Notre Dame in 1989 at number 2. Of course, the Irish lost to Miami 27-10 late in that season to fail to go back-to-back in national championships for the Irish, but it was that Notre Dame team just a few years later in 1994 that finished unranked and became the last unranked team that started number 2 in the country preseason. There again, you see on through the 90s and 2000s, these number 2 teams in the nation are faring pretty well, pretty much in the top 5 to 10 in the nation. Notre Dame, though, in 06 finished at number 17 after a preseason ranking of number 2, 1 year after Texas won it all, with Vince Young at quarterback, of course, after starting the season at number 2. You've got national championships coming from the number 2 teams in the country, Alabama 2011 and 2012. And then you've got a Clemson team in 2016 that, of course, upset Alabama in the national championship game as a preseason number 2 to finish at number 1 in the country. Ohio State, a number 2 team in both 2017 and 2020, finished at number 5 and number 2. And then again, Clemson, of course, was the last national champion to start out the season at number 2 in the nation. Discussion, debate, and analysis. Do you like our analytics right here? If you've got any requests, leave them down in the comments section. And if you enjoy these videos, please like, share, and again, give us your comments down below right here at the Voice of College Football.